It's not every day that the company you love and adore so much validates your criticisms of their watch, but that's exactly what happened at Watches and Wonders 2022. You know, at least that's what I'm gonna tell myself. Just let me have this one, okay? I made a video called Problems with the Air King or something like that. This is the video here. In that video, I made a little mock-up of what the Air King would look like if it had that 0 in front of the 5, if it was 05 instead of 5. And people ridiculed me, man. I don't think anybody was nasty, but a lot of people were like, no, it's not good like that. It would be illegible. There was one pretty sophisticated criticism, and I made a follow-up video about that criticism because it was so good. But in that criticism, the guy said, no, the 5 by itself is more legible. It's easier to read because with the 2 digits, 05 and then 10 and then over on the other side 55, you know, it's too many digits there, and the 05 would be confusing at a quick glance. You know, that sounds nice on paper when you read it, but that's not true. I don't think that was true. And obviously Rolex agreed. There was an imbalance there. There was this big gap, this big open space on the right side of the triangle on the dial, and it just, you know, it was one of those things, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Look, you know, I'm not saying that Rolex saw my video and then saw the gap on the dial and then couldn't unsee it. You know, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm also not ruling it out. So whether Rolex saw my video or not, I'm not, I don't have such an ego that I think that Rolex saw my video. I really don't, but I do think it's possible that my video put the criticism of the 5 into the zeitgeist, you know, and people started maybe talking about it, and the designers at Rolex eventually saw this design inconsistency. I think maybe my video might have helped with that. Who knows? But besides that, I think Rolex did a great job with this watch. I don't know if they removed the Faraday cage, because that was my other big criticism, was that the watch was so thick because of that Faraday cage. It was unnecessarily thick. You know, that Faraday cage is so redundant, especially with these new 32 whatever movements. These movements are entirely anti-magnetic on their own. They don't need a 50-year-old technology of an iron cage around the movement to make them anti-magnetic. They're already anti-magnetic with the parachrome hairspring. So I hope they removed the Faraday cage. I think they might have, because the case is now the professional case. It's not the nice, you know, Yachtmaster-y curved case, which, you know, I saw Bruce Williams' video about this new watch, and he seems to really like this move to, you know, a proper professional oyster case. But to be honest with you, I think it's a move in the wrong direction. As much as I love, you know, the GMT and the subs and all the professional watches, I do think that the better case, you know, the sexier, probably the more labor-intensive case is the curved one of the Yachtmaster, the Oyster Perpetual, the Datejust, and the previous Air King. You know, I think that's just a more aesthetically pleasing case. It fits better on the wrist, you know, it kind of hugs the wrist better. So hopefully there's no Faraday cage in this new case, because now the case is not going to hug your wrist as well. And also on top of that, if it's still just as thick as the previous one, it's going to like sit up on your wrist pretty high, and that's something that's like a pet peeve of mine with watches, especially subs and sea dwellers and things like that. They just float on your wrist a little too high. And the nice thing about the previous Air King, even if it was thick, was that case kind of, you know, sank into your wrist pretty well, so that thickness wasn't blatant and in your face. You know, that case hid a lot of the thickness. And yeah, another thing they did was they added the flip-lock clasp. And, you know, again, I made another video way early on in my channel about the merits of the flip-lock clasp over the just, you know, pressure pull clasp, which is what the previous Air King had. I think it's a fantastic move to go to the flip-lock clasp. I think every Rolex should have a flip-lock, to be honest with you. I just don't see why not. It's just that extra layer of protection. But yeah, well done Rolex, well done. I'm not gonna make a video about the GMT, I don't think, because everybody's making a video about it, and I just don't want to be, you know, a bandwagon type of channel. So I'm kind of lukewarm about it. If you're really dying to know my opinion, I think it's whatever, you know, honestly. The whole left-handed thing, you know, they say, oh, it's for 10% of the population. I think it's for closer to 0% of the population. And I'll tell you why. Even that 10% of left-handed people, unless this is their first watch ever, unless this is their introduction to wearing watches, they've worn watches before and they've adapted to it. So they either wear it on their left wrist regardless, or they wear it on their right wrist and they just, when they take the watch off, they set the watch with their right hand. I mean, it's not inconceivable. There are a lot of things that right-handed people, just because of the nature of, you know, life and how things are set up, right-handed people are better at doing something with their left hand. For example, I play baseball, and can you imagine, anybody who's played baseball, can you imagine wearing your glove on the right hand and trying to catch a ball with your right hand? It's totally inconceivable. I can only imagine catching a ball with my left hand because that's where my glove has been my whole life. But I'm not a lefty, I'm a right-handed person, but catching a baseball while wearing a baseball glove is something that I do with my left hand. And setting a watch is something that left-handed people do with their right hand. So this watch is actually for less than 1% of the population. It's only for people who are brand new to watches and this is gonna be their only watch. Or, okay, fine, maybe it's for some lefties out there who, you know, loved the Pelagos, the LHD Pelagos, and they really wanted a Rolex with the same sort of qualities. Whatever. Look, I just think it's such an unnecessary innovation, you know? I don't understand the move on Rolex's part. Are they gonna add more left-hand Rolexes in the future? Look, I like the watch. I think that the green and black is beautiful. I think they did a phenomenal job with that. And of course, I can't knock any modern GMT. They're all fantastic. But just the whole left-hand thing, I don't really get it. I don't really see the whole point of it and why it was so important for Rolex. This company who does not need to make their watches more accessible to anybody. Anybody who's lucky enough to buy a Rolex, lefty or righty, is gonna just suffer through wearing it on whatever freaking hand Rolex says you're gonna wear it on. So anyway, if I make a video about it in the future, there's a sneak preview. But yeah, the Air King, man. Great job, Rolex. I think that they knocked it out of the park in a few years if I can buy one. See, now the dial just doesn't seem as busy to me, even though they've added the zero. Just the design of it seems way more cohesive, you know, and something I can wrap my mind around. Whereas the previous one felt a little bit like slapdash and thrown together, right, with those 3, 6, and 9 numerals. But anyway, hopefully I can try this watch on soon, and until next time, peace out.